YouTubers, welcome to another episode. Today we're heading to British Rowing Trials 2024 February edition. As you can tell, the boat's on the roof. It's time to get in the car and head off to Boston. And we're off. The journey itself probably going to last about 4.5 hours. For those of you that don't know, I'm based just outside of Bath. Not on the west coast, but on the west side of England, about 2 hours west of London. And then we're going to Boston, Lincolnshire, which is basically on the east coast, roughly in the middle of Britain-ish. And so the reason it's held there, at least I believe, is partly that, because it's roughly the same distance for everyone, roughly. And it's also one of the longer stretches where it's not a tidal river. There's no bridges over it, sort of locks in the middle of it or anything like that. So it should be, in theory, a relatively easy place to have consistent racing, consistent results. But generally, in February, the weather is usually pretty bad. So it can be quite hard to get those consistent results. But as always, rowing is a rowing sport and we deal with the conditions we are dealt. And we get out there and try and go as fast as I can and just apply what I've been trying to practice on race day. So for now, we have a peaceful, restful journey. So we'll just continue this for another probably a couple of hours, have a little stop, have a little bit of move around, another couple of hours, and we should get there to then rig up the boat, put it on the water, get a little stretch on the legs on the water, and then it's almost race time. So a pretty relaxed drive on the way to Boston. Stopped off to stretch the legs in between some rainy spells, but then once we did get to Boston, got the boat off the roof, rigged it up and got ready to get onto the water. Just before we're getting onto the water, spoke to my girlfriend who had already been out on it and was saying how the stream itself was super fast. And not only was it fast, it was absolutely freezing cold. And obviously, as you can see, it's a bit flooded, so we had to get the feet wet. But was prepared for some fast conditions getting out there. So, starting off with the legs only, and then was looking at the splits as I was going through, and they weren't as fast as I was anticipating. And it turns out that the locks or the gates or whatever it is at parts of the river here were closed, so the stream in fact did slow down. So I was getting a bit, oh, why are the splits not as fast as I thought they were going to be? But it turns out there was an actual reason for it. But as I spoke about in the previous episode about getting the experience in the washy, streamy water back on the Avon, it was actually pretty good because that was very similar to the water that we were dealing with here. So very unpredictable water. Parts of it might be quite quick, parts of it might be quite slow, but you always just have to get the blade in and push with the legs. But the session itself ended up being a pretty nice one. Less and less people getting onto the water. Finished up, put the boat away for the evening, and then a lovely sunset to finish off the evening itself. And I'll see you tomorrow. And we have made it to trials day. Yam and I just out stretching the legs prior to getting down to the course this morning. Absolutely delightful evening last night, chilling out and fueling up, because remember, food is fuel, and we're going to need a lot of fuel to get down the course for 5 kilometers as fast as we can. For now, there's not really much else we can do. Just chill out, get Yam nice and relaxed, and get to the rowing club and get warmed up to go as fast as we can down the course, bearing in mind we'll try to row as well as we can. Yam and I out here just assessing the conditions pre-race. Like I said yesterday, the water can be super variable. Right now we've got a little bit of a headwind and it looks like the stream is quite quick. But obviously I won't know how quick until we get on the water. So let's go do that now. Fingers crossed, Yam Squad. Let's see how we get on. Right, there's a pair of the hiking boots.
Hiking boots there.
Cheers, guys. Off we go. Have a good one. Cheers. And there we go, off the water, onto the trestles post. 5,000 meters on the water in the single. Interesting one. First, the stream obviously stayed high, so going much quicker than you'd think you could go, and it's just hard to judge effort. First half, I thought I was quite happy with. Well, overall, happy with how I rode. We'll get that out of the way first, and then see how the result impacts that opinion. But I think I rode better than I have. Effort-wise, I think perhaps I could have adjusted a little bit better. The first half felt solid, and then coming around the bend, the split slowed down, and I was thinking, oh, it's just different conditions. But then shifted gears a little bit and found not the same split I was at. It did definitely slow down, but not as much as I initially thought. So wobble of confidence around halfway, but brought it back, which I was happy with myself about, rather than just spending the last half making it hard and just almost just but hard piece. See how the results are. Like I said, it's about going out there and comparing to people around me, and we'll see how we get on. And we've made it back after trials, and it's been, to be honest, a few days since then. Finished the racing, had a chat to the camera, and then as I was sort of looking back through the footage, I kind of listened to what I was saying, and one, it was quite sort of all over the place, didn't make super sense, and two, I think it was a bad representation of what actually happened, if that makes sense. So, the facts of the trial, I ended up in 24th place, so not a fantastic result or outcome for the trials itself. Now, as you just saw, coming off the water, I was relatively happy with how I rode, because it did feel like I rode better. And since the trial, I spoke to multiple coaches that were lining the bank and asking them about what did the rowing look like. And pieces of footage, different photos on the internet, it looks a lot better. What we've been speaking about over the previous month or so is making it shallower, making the blade shallower, not lifting, and trying to drive more with the legs. And that's what everything was pointing towards. So it was a success. I came into the trials, the 5K itself, with the mindset of going out and rowing the majority of these strokes well. And I can say that that was a success, so that's really good. The unfortunate part of that is, as I spoke about a couple of episodes ago, I was wanting to be able to row well for the majority of strokes, which would lead to more speed and therefore lead to a better result. Unfortunately, it didn't quite happen that way. It felt a little bit like, especially at the finish, it was quite an unsure intensity row, I think because it was that bit more efficient than I have been previously, especially in that 5K, where I'm quite unsure of the pressure, so I push a little bit, and then fall off a cliff. Whereas this one, I was able to keep pushing, and then I felt, okay, I'm still able to keep pushing, and it wasn't becoming a huge issue where I would drop off of the speed. So it's good signs going forward. It's just unfortunately at this point in time, I don't get judged on my mindset going into it or what I think the process was or anything like that. I get judged on the result itself. So yes, it was 24th. I think it was around 50 seconds behind first place. And then I think it was around 10 seconds between 24th, between myself and 10th, roughly. So there was tight margins. So literally if I went a split faster overall, which really isn't too much, that's not too much of an ask. It would be a completely different story on that judgment, but it is where I ended up. So I have to deal with the cards that were dealt as always. But unfortunately with the result and with the judgment due to that result gives a little bit of less surety to what I'll be doing going forward. So we'll be kind of seeing right now, assessing what the options are, training wise, etc. Trying to obviously go as fast as I can. Right now, so February to the races, there's different trials, the April trials, but then you need invited to those and then things like that. The judgment probably would be on the slow side, so may not get invited to the next one, but then there's obviously completely ignoring trials, there's races throughout the season, which would be really good to attend, that I've attended the last couple of years. So it's a matter of thinking what's going on, what to look at now, but really right now, there's the World Rowing Indoor Championships coming up very soon, just next week. So that's what I'll be mostly focusing on, getting back onto the erg. The water right now is horrible throughout this part of the UK. So getting out on the water, even last week it was pretty flooded, it's even more flooded. So getting out in the water is looking like a no-no anyway. So a bit more erging right now, and that will help for the World Indoor Rowing Championship. So that's good. But then so over the next couple of weeks, a little bit of assessing, what will I be up to, what are the aims coming up, trying to make the process progressing. So, okay, I did a full piece that I was proud of, the actual rowing I did. Maybe not so much the sort of intensity-wise, but right now I would much rather have that rowing be better rather than the intensity be really high and the rowing be terrible. So hopefully we can start adding that intensity in kind of thing. Not that I struggle with working hard, more so increasing that rowing ability and bringing up the ability to work hard at that efficiency. Probably a little bit of just getting used to working hard at that newer technique that I have. And then we go from there. So that's a future Yam Squad to look forward to. Hopefully you enjoyed the trials episode. A little bit of a different finish. I did just watch what I was saying, and it was just because it can be really easy for when you see an outcome that you're not looking for or that's more negative than you wanted or anticipated, it can be very easy, myself included and pretty much everyone in the world, for that to bring you down. So it was quite what now? And then I looked back and I thought, that wasn't what I was looking for going into trial. I went in to try and row better and compare to the people around me. And that's what we did. So a tick for that box. Now to move on. So if you enjoyed this episode, as always, remember to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already to see what we do get up to next post and pre-World Rowing Indoor Championships. And I'll see you in the next episode.